What is going on, guys? Thank you for all the subscribers and the people who have watched the first video. Really do appreciate it. I do apologize for not making a video anytime soon because I've been extremely busy, but this is one of the videos that I think is much needed, as I do see the struggle with guys that's trying to do a sound system in their vehicle, and they just not pairing the amplifiers with the subwoofers correctly. So this video is hopefully going to help you guys understand how to pair subwoofers to monoblock amplifiers or 4-channel amplifiers, depending on what you have. Remember, budgets are different. Not everybody can afford the top of the range stuff. Everybody would love to get the top of the range equipment. Unfortunately, budgets are different and people can only afford a few things. So I'm going to try and help you as best as I can to be safe and get loud. So everything that you see in front of me, this is not a sponsored video, guys. This is all my equipment. This is everything that I've been purchasing over the many years of collecting. And if you love bass, there's no limit to it. So this is going to help you guys understand what you need to do when you're looking for a bass in your vehicle and you want to probably get the best. I don't know if there's even a thing called the best subwoofer or an entry-level subwoofer. I think that's the best way we can put it, because remember, guys, all subwoofers are amazing. There's different subwoofers made for different people. Not everybody loves the bass that you get from this guy compared to that guy. Personally, I love these guys as much as I have these. I feel these give way more accurate response, especially in a well-tuned box. These two get really, really nice and you enjoy them. This, on the other hand, these are like extremely powerful. These guys can really get loud with the proper equipment. But that's another video. Right now, let's just talk about pairing amplifiers to subwoofers. So as you can see, I have currently in front of me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 12-inch subwoofers. I have 3 10-inch subwoofers, which is 1, 2, 3, and I have a single 8-inch subwoofer. From that, I do have 3 monoblocks. One is this little guy here, which is a nano. We have another monoblock, which is your Linear Tech LT2700, and then the Star Sound 6900 monoblock as well. All monoblocks, however, they do different things, different power. That is a old school. That's what got me here right now, is that guy. That's one that started it off for me. That's the reason why I fell in love with bass, is because of that subwoofer there. That is the Earthquake. I call it the Earthquake Stroker. If you guys know about Vega strokers, the center pole doesn't move, it stays in one position. This doesn't have a center pole, however, the center does stay in one place. It even looks like a Vega in terms of the Vega stroker, because it's got 2 spiders. If you guys don't know what spiders is this flexible material that's here. There's one here, there's one on the top, on that woofer there. Very accurate. I believe that has a 4-inch voice coil, old school, back from the 90s. This is a Rockford Force Gate 8-inch woofer. It's got a 2-inch voice coil, which I believe is the same size as these guys. These are 12s. That's an 8. That is a DVC. I have these 2 10-inch Star Sounds. These guys got a 3-inch voice coil, pretty much like the Targa Venoms. 3-inch voice coil, 3-inch voice coil, 2-inch voice coils. And this 10 down here, which is the new Star Sound Spectrum, that's got like, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's a 2.5-inch voice coil on that guy there. So those are the different subwoofers. They all got different rating of power, and they all got different impedance. Impedance meaning this is a DVC. You got two 4-ohm coils on either side. If you wire it up, it goes to an 8-ohm. If you wire it down, it goes to a 2-ohm load, which is the maximum impedance the subwoofer can actually do as a single unit. This, that, and this guy is all single voice coils, meaning they only have one set of connections that's coming out from a single voice coil. And then these two and these two Targa Venoms are DVCs. However, these are 4 ohm per coil, pretty much like this. And these are different. These, as you can see, that's a 1D, and that's a 1D. So which means this subwoofer with the 2 positives and 2 negatives, if I wire it up, it'll go up to a 2 ohm load. If I wire it down, it'll go to a 0.5 ohm load. Same with that guy. Now that we got impedances out of the way, let's go to the amplifiers. So this amplifier can do 4 ohm, 2 ohm, and 1 ohm stable. I don't know, it doesn't really say on the amplifier that's 1 ohm stable, but it does go down to 1 ohm stable. Same with the Linear Tech Pro LT2700, goes down to 1 ohm stable. By the way, this amp is not mine. This is a good customer of mine that's trustfully left this amp with me for a very, very long time, and he is aware that I've got this amplifier. So shout out to him. If he sees this video, he knows who he is. And then this is the one that I've purchased recently from one of my good friends. This is a nano amplifier. This can do a 4 ohm and a 2 ohm, but it's not a 1 ohm stable, and I'll tell you the reason why. When you look at these type of amplifiers, these monoblocks, as you can see, it's pretty much like a normal monoblock. So you got your gain, you got your subsonic, which is very important, your bass boost, and you get your LPF. All right. This is the reason why these guys can't go 1 ohm stable. There is a version of this and that could go down to 1 ohm, but slightly bigger than this. But it's because of these connectors. This can support only an 8 gauge, which means you can't really push a lot of power. You can hook up a 4 gauge with a what's this thing? With a connector that comes down to a 0 gauge. To a 8 gauge. Unfortunately, you're still going to get 2 ohm stable, so you're not going to increase it to the amount of ohms that you can get to it. So these two here on either side can take a 4 gauge, 100% copper wire, your wiring kits that you get from the sound stores, which is the oxygen free copper, not the full copper cables, but they can run on these. Please be careful with cables, guys, it's very important. The difference is this one at 4 ohm, it's not really registered on how much it can do, but it can run a 4 ohm subwoofer. On 2 ohms, I believe this amplifier can go up to, if I'm not mistaken, 900 RMS at 2 ohms. And at 1 ohm, this amplifier can do around 1300 RMS. With this guy, then the 1 ohm stable can go up to 1500 RMS. The 2 ohm, I believe, is 1000 RMS, and the 4 ohm, I believe, it's around 600 RMS on that guy. So those are different RMS ratings for these. Now, this is very, very important. It doesn't mean that if that amp goes down to 1 ohm and this goes down to 1 ohm, you're getting consistently 1200 RMS or 1500 RMS. No. That is a burst of power these amps can put out, meaning they can play up to that capacity, maybe a little bit more. There is a video with this 6900 on a dyno, if I'm not mistaken, that did more than its bigger brother. Its bigger brother is a 2200. You guys can check that video out, can search it up, you'll find that video. That actually did a little bit more, well, actually a lot more than what its recommended power is. So does this guy. These amps are very underrated. And then I was actually really surprised with this little nano amp here. It can actually pull out a lot of power, and it doesn't take up a lot of power. So bear in mind, keep that's your key point right there. It's not giving enough power, because remember, a good sound system starts from your engine, guys. It starts from there. Good and a bad sound system starts from there. Your electrical, please invest in your electrical system as much as you would invest in one of those amplifiers or one of these subwoofers. It's really, really important. So with regards to the amp, to pairing it, that's what the whole point of this video is. However, I needed to explain the reasons behind each one so you guys will understand. So this subwoofer, let's start with the 8-inch. So this says 500 watts max power, right? Okay, let's just rewind a little bit. Do not pay attention to watts, guys. Do not pay attention to watts. It is a marketing thing. It is a gimmick. Do not pay attention to watts when it comes to this. Watts do not mean anything. Basically, like, look at this. This says 1,000 watts and 1,000 watts. You're seeing that together now. You're going to be like, oh, I got 2,000 watts. No. This is RMS rating for all of these. Your RMS rating must match or be less than the amplifier that you're going to be hooking up to. Simple as that. It must match or be less than the maximum or the thing of the amplifiers. Sorry guys, I'm getting my words twisted here. It must either, the monoblocks must either be more, not too much, a little bit more, or must match your speakers where it doesn't damage your unit alone. So the difference between voice coils, what that means is how much of power can they handle for a longer period of time. That's what the difference of voice coils is. So you got 3-inch voice coil, you got 4-inch voice coil, you got 3-inch voice coil, you got 2-inch voice coil, 2-inch voice coil, you got all of those. Where it comes down is simple as this. If I've got this only available, the single 8-inch Rockford, if I only want to run this, irrespective of what vehicle it is, if I got a nice custom box for this speaker, I need to figure out on what impedance am I going to be using the speaker. Because if I wire up, it's a 8 ohm. If I wire down, it's a 2 ohm, which means this is a dual 4-inch. Dual 4 DVC. So 4 ohms, 4 ohms, right? Which one of these amps can run this? All of them. All of them can run it. However, setting your gain is crucial. Setting your subsonic is crucial so you don't damage this unit, the subwoofer, because your subwoofer needs to be tuned to your box. That's the reason why you got subsonic filters. Subsonic filters allow your box to not play any lower than what is tuned, which will damage the amount of excursion the subwoofer can go, and obviously damaging and burning a coil. All of these can run it. That there, all of these can run it, even though it's got a 4-inch voice coil, which means it can handle power way more better than this one, even though they both are 4 ohms. That will actually take a lot more power consistently and without getting the coil hot compared to this one. So which means I can go a little bit more high on the gain over here and not damage that guy. But on this one, definitely. The Sony Explodes, the two of them. If I got one of them, sure, it's pretty much same system. It's a 4 ohm. It's risky. It will run on these, but it'll be risky because you want to tune your gain correctly. But if you got both of them and you wire them, kind of look at it as this guy in both of those. So you're going to get a coil from there, you're going to get a coil from here. If you want to get the maximum out of your amplifier and get as loud as possible with these two, you're going to wire these two to 2 ohm load, which is the 2 positives, the 2 negatives. That'll work on that. Same with these guys. However, this is the catch now. This is where it gets a little bit technical. These two are dual 4 ohms. So which means that can go to a 2 ohm, that can go into a 2 ohm. And if I have to wire up, that will go to 8 ohm, that will go into 8 ohm. That means it'll be a 4 ohm load final impedance for those. That's if you want to play it safe and not pull enough current from your electrical system. That's perfect. You can run those. But if I want to get the maximum out of my amplifier and the most bang for my buck, I will wire these to a 1 ohm stable, which means wire those up to a 2 ohm, 2 ohm, bring the positives and negatives together, and then you got a final impedance load of 1 ohm. 1 ohm, you're going to get 1200, 1500. This guy cannot work with 2 of these. This will blow up. Because you're just asking for trouble, you're going to damage your amp. But those 2 definitely can handle power of these. And then you come to these big guys. Sorry guys, that's 10 down there is the same as this. So just bear in mind, I'm not talking about that because it's the same as this. These now are very, very, very risky. I love these subs, don't get me wrong. These are dual 1 ohms Venoms, very rare, really heavy, as you can see. I can't even lift it with 1 hand. Sorry guys, I'm holding my phone. But this dual 1, so which means one coil is 1 ohm, the other coil is 1 ohm. This can go to a 2 ohm load if I wire up, which means if I've got one of these, if I want to play with one of these in my vehicle, I can use any one of these amps, including this guy down here, including this guy. However, the rating of RMS on this here is a little bit more powerful for this guy, because what happens is it will play it, but you're going to run the risk of your amp overheating and eventually damaging it or clipping it, because you're going to have to turn your gain all the way up to try and keep up with this guy. However, those ones can handle it with breeze, including this guy. Now if I wire this to try and get the maximum power, which means if I wire it down, take the 1 ohm, positive, positive, negative, negative, this will come to a 0.5 ohm load, which means these amps cannot handle that. You can do some adjustments. When I mean adjustments is you're going to need somebody that can repair amps for you, and probably ask them to increase the power caps on these amps. I believe they come with a 80 amp power cap, and then if you want to upgrade, you can upgrade to 110 amps. However, your electrical supply is so crucial over here, is that this to get a 0.5 ohm load, you're pushing those way more than what they can handle. They're not recommended for it. They will play it, but they're not recommended for it. You run a high risk of burning your vehicle down, burning your electrical supply, or damaging the unit when you run to a 0.5 ohm. That's why majority of the people don't recommend 0.5 ohm loads, is because it's not safe if you don't know what you're doing. And for beginners, stay away from that. Even if your amp states it's a 0.5 ohm stable amp, you still run the risk of damaging something, because if you're taking that type of amplifier and you're putting it in a vehicle, you just say you buy a new vehicle and you don't have a big 3 upgrade, you don't have over 110 amp alternator, you don't have a lithium battery, you don't have 0 gauge, 100% 0 gauge wiring, you don't have a good ground. There's so many different aspects to look into it when you're going to a 0.5 ohm load, which is risky. But the most important thing is stay away from it. It's very risky. Do not say that I told you guys use that. It's very risky. So these two, the good thing about these ones is I can't wire them down if I'm using both of them. I'm going to have 2 amplifiers that states that it's 0.5 ohm capability. Even if I strap those 2 identical amplifiers together, it still can't go lower than the impedance this is going to ask, because this is 0.5, 0.5. If I bring that together, what's that? 0.2, 0.3 ohm load, which is definitely something you're not going to get. However, if I got 2 identical amplifiers that states it's 0.5 ohm load, I can run each amp independently on this if I do have all electrical supply to back that up. Guaranteed, I will run these and I will get crazy loud. These subs are capable for 150 dBs with a custom box in a nice, in a nice custom box with enough power. They will do it. But point of everything is match your RMS to your monoblocks. Simple as that. This is one of the lightest 12 inches that I have here. Let me just turn this around because there is a description at the back. So the Sony recommends that this impedance, 4 ohm impedance, it likes 300 RMS impedance. So if I put these two together, these two will be 600 RMS on a 2 ohm stable. If I take positive and negative, connect it to positive and negative, I'll get a maximum of 600 RMS from these two, which means my amplifier supply needs to be 600 RMS. This little guy can run both of those perfectly. This does, if I'm not mistaken, on a 2 ohm load, 800 RMS, which is a little bit extra room to play with. Now remember, it's not giving me 100% 800 RMS, but it's going to play in between 600 and 700 RMS. Remember, your amplifiers only put out 80% of its electrical supply. 80%. It's very rare. You get the very high name amplifier brands that will do recommended power. However, majority of them, from as far as I've been dealing with it, has been 80%, 80 to 85% power supply. So two of these will work great on that. You run the risk of damage your subwoofers with that. You run the risk of damage your subwoofers with that. That's like, I think I said 800, but it'll do a little bit more. This does 1,000, which is way more than these guys can handle because all they require is 600. Another thing is to bear in mind, okay, we'll come back to what I was going to say right now. These ones are capable of 1,000 RMS each, which means if I wire them to a 1 ohm stable, they're going to require 2,000 RMS, which none of these can do. Same goes with these ones. None of these can do 2,000 RMS continuously. However, the good thing is if I run these two, if I set my gain correctly with the amps, I'm not going to overheat those units if I got a good electrical system. That will require also 1,000 RMS, but it's a single voice coil. That's the power back in the days. That will require that. This will only require 500 watts on 2 ohm loads. So which means it's perfect for these. You're not going to run the risk of damaging the amplifier. However, if you overpower the amplifier by turning up the gain too much, you will damage this. Same with that guy down there. They're pretty much the same. So that's how it works, guys, when it comes to bass. I know this video is a bit longer than usually. However, when it comes to bass and getting the right stuff, I believe all this information is really, really crucial in getting the best bang for your buck. So stay safe. I'm going to try and create a page on Facebook. If you want, I am on Facebook. It's Romano Chetty. You'll see a picture of me with my wife on the cover page. Hit me up with a message, personal message, and I can assist you wherever I can. However, when it comes to this, hopefully this video assists you guys, because when it comes to trying to find what can work for your system, this is how you look at it. You look at, firstly, I would start with that and then pick my subwoofer. I wouldn't pick my subwoofer and then try and match my amp, because remember, like I said, budgets are different. See what fits your pocket. Do your research on your amplifiers. See, automatically you're gonna know if I have a D2. Okay, these are for the guys that's already got subwoofers. If I've got a D2 subwoofer and I want the maximum out of it, that means each coil is 2 ohm stable, which means I can wire to a 1 ohm if I go down. If I wire up, I'm going to go to a 4 ohm. That's a D2. The D4, if I wire down, it'll go into a D2. If I wire up, it'll go into an 8 ohm load. With these ones, Y down 0.5, Y up 2 ohm. If I want a single monoblock, a single sub, because I don't have enough space to put two, and I want the most power that I can get from my system, I will go for a D2 subwoofer, because when you wire them to a 1 ohm load, majority of the monoblocks out there, except for the Nano series, there are a few, but I would go with it like something like these guys here, to a 1 ohm, and get the most that I can get and get loud with one subwoofer. But if I have the space and I want to do something crazy like 212s, 215s, 412s, then when I mean 412s, I mean 4 of these guys, single voice coils, because kind of imagine 4 of these will be equivalent to 2 of these in terms of impedance. I'm going to need 4 of these to go to a 1 ohm stable, because they're all 4 ohms. You get 4 of them. That's two ohms, 2 ohms, 2 ohms, 2 ohms. Sorry, wait. That's 4 ohm, 4 ohm, that's 2 ohm, 4 ohm, 4 ohm, that's 2 ohm. Come together, that's 1 ohm. That's what 4 of these. You can really get loud with any one of those two amplifiers. But yeah, hit me up guys with a message. I hope this video helps. I'm sorry it's much more longer than usual, but that's how you pair subwoofers with amplifiers in your car audio.